Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why fear still grips you, even when everything around you seems fine? Why do so many people live in silent captivity, trapped not by chains but by the invisible bars of their own minds? Fear is the unseen ruler of modern lives, quiet, persistent, and deadly. It sneaks in disguised as doubt, hesitation, and procrastination. It's why potential remains locked away, why bold moves are delayed, and why you sometimes feel paralyzed, even when success is within reach. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Fear is not the monster you think it is. It's not about real dangers lurking in the shadows. Fear is born in your mind, a reaction to your perception of threats, not always to the threats themselves. Your mind inflates problems, creating storms where there are only ripples. The question is this: will you let fear dictate your life, or will you take control? This is where Stoicism steps in. More than 2,000 years ago, a group of thinkers faced the same internal battles you do. They understood fear's mechanics and discovered a way to master it, not by fleeing, but by confronting it head-on with reason and inner strength. Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, the giants of Stoic philosophy, crafted a timeless guide to living unshackled by fear. They teach us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the conquest of it. Seneca famously said, "Courage is the conquest of fear, not its absence." Let that sink in. Courage doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means you face fear, break it down, and move forward despite it. This subtle but profound difference is the key that unlocks your true potential. Now, imagine living by this law every single day. What would it mean to refuse fear's silent orders? What if you started seeing fear for what it really is, a signal to grow, to adapt, to act? This is not some abstract ideal. It's practical. It's actionable. It's the foundation for unleashing your inner power. Let's be brutally honest. Fear controls more lives than we admit. It's the whisper that convinces you to settle for less, the invisible hand pushing you away from your goals. Even people who appear successful on the outside are often prisoners inside, held hostage by fear of failure, rejection, or change. But here's the challenge. You crush your fears by facing them. You don't wait for fear to disappear. You don't hope it fades away. You confront it with the sharp blade of reason forged in the fire of Stoic wisdom. This is how you reclaim your life. The Stoics showed us that fear is largely a product of our judgments, how we interpret events, not the events themselves. It's your mind's story about what might happen, often exaggerated and distorted. Recognizing this shatters fear's illusion. You start to see fear as a story you tell yourself, not an absolute truth. Remember Epictetus's powerful insight: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Powerful words. They remind us that control lies within your mind, your choices, your responses. Fear loses its grip when you take this truth to heart. So what does this mean for you? It means the first step to beating fear is to understand it. Fear thrives in confusion and ignorance. When you recognize its source, your perception, you disarm it. You build a mental fortress where fear cannot penetrate. But understanding alone is not enough. You must commit to applying these Stoic laws. This requires more than intellectual agreement. It demands action. It demands daily practice of seeing fear clearly, naming it, and refusing to let it control your decisions. Think about the areas of your life where fear holds you back. Is it fear of failure that stops you from starting a new project? Fear of rejection that silences your voice? Fear of change that keeps you stuck in comfort? Whatever it is, know this: you have the power to dismantle these barriers. The Stoics teach that courage is a muscle. It strengthens with use. Each time you face fear, you grow stronger. Each time you act despite fear, you prove to yourself that fear is not the master. Don't be fooled by the idea that Stoicism makes you unemotional or cold. It doesn't. It sharpens your emotional intelligence, helping you distinguish between fear that protects and fear that paralyzes. It teaches you to feel fear fully but not be ruled by it. Now, ask yourself, are you ready to start this journey? Are you prepared to look fear in the eye and say, "You will not control me"? This is the moment where many falter, but also where true warriors rise. The path isn't easy. It never is when you're breaking free from invisible chains. But imagine the freedom waiting on the other side. The freedom to pursue your goals with relentless focus, to speak your truth without hesitation, to live purposefully without the weight of fear dragging you down. Seneca's wisdom is your beacon here. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the conquest of it. This conquest begins with understanding fear's nature and committing to the daily battle against it. So, as you move forward, remember this. Fear is a shadow you cast on yourself. Change your light, change your shadow. You crush your fears by facing them. Let that sink in. Your mind is the battleground. Your rational judgment is the sword. Your courage is the shield. And your inner power is the victory waiting to be claimed. Keep this truth close as we continue. The journey to mastering fear is a journey to mastering yourself. And Stoicism is the guide that lights your way. Now that you understand fear is born from your perception, not reality itself, it's time to dig deeper. Why do our minds twist what might happen into terrifying stories? Why does fear grow so large when the threat is often small or even non-existent? The answer lies in the way you judge and interpret events. Fear is not triggered by facts, it's triggered by your thoughts about those facts. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoics, nailed this truth when he said, "It's not events that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Think about that for a moment. The world around you is neutral, indifferent. It doesn't plot against you or favor you. Your fear is a reaction to your mind's interpretation, often exaggerated, often false. This means you have a choice. You can accept these fearful stories as truth, or you can challenge them with reason. When you observe your fear without immediately reacting, you gain power. You shift from being controlled by your emotions to becoming the master of them. This is emotional mastery, an essential step toward freedom. How do you do this? Start by creating a mental space between the stimulus and your reaction. When fear arises, pause. Don't dive into panic or avoidance. Instead, step back and watch the fear as if you were an outsider. Ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Is this fear based on fact or on exaggerated judgment? What's the worst that could realistically happen? This technique is called cognitive distancing. It's a mental discipline that weakens fear's grip by separating you from the immediate emotional storm. It's not about suppressing fear. It's about seeing it clearly and without distortion. Another powerful tool is negative visualization, or what the Stoics called premeditatio malorum. This means imagining worst-case scenarios in a controlled, reflective way. It sounds counterintuitive, but by voluntarily confronting possible adversity in your mind, you prepare yourself. You reduce fear's surprise attack. The unknown loses its power when you bring it into the light of your awareness. Imagine you fear losing your job. Instead of avoiding the thought, you picture what life would be like if it happened. What would you do? How would you adapt? This mental rehearsal builds resilience and calm. It turns fear from a paralyzing force into an actionable signal. This is not some vague philosophical exercise. It's practical, it's concrete, and it works. You train your mind to respond with clarity and courage instead of panic and avoidance. But here's the catch. This mental discipline requires daily practice. Fear's grip is powerful because it's a habit. Your mind defaults to exaggerated stories because it's what you've trained it to do. Change that by consciously observing your fears every day. Name them, question them, break them down. Epictetus's wisdom echoes here again. No man is free who is not master of himself. Freedom comes from mastering your judgments. When you refuse to believe every fearful thought, you take back control. This mastery transforms fear's role in your life. Instead of being a prison, fear becomes a signal, a guide pointing you to what matters. It alerts you to challenges that need your attention, not to threats that need your retreat. Ask yourself, how often have your fears been wrong? How many times has the disaster your mind predicted never come? How many opportunities did you miss because you believed a fearful story instead of facing reality? By applying these Stoic tools, you break this cycle. You replace reactive fear with deliberate action. You replace emotional chaos with calm observation. Now, you might wonder, isn't it easier said than done? Yes, it is. But that's exactly why this practice is a form of inner strength training. It builds resilience one deliberate moment at a time. Each pause, each reflection, each mental rehearsal is a rep in the gym of your mind. You become unstoppable when you master this. You turn fear into a compass, not a cage. You see clearly what's real and what's imagined. And that clarity is power. So start today. When fear arises, don't run. Don't react blindly. Step back. Separate your perception from fact. Use cognitive distancing to watch your fear without judgment. Use negative visualization to prepare for adversity. Train your mind to respond with reason, not panic. You crush your fears by facing them. You become unstoppable when you take control of your inner dialogue. Let that sink in. This is not about removing fear completely. That's impossible and unrealistic. It's about changing your relationship with fear. It's about refusing to surrender to irrational judgments. It's about reclaiming your power through emotional mastery. Remember, your mind is the battlefield. Your judgments are the weapons. Your calm observation is the shield. And your rational response is the victory. Keep practicing this daily. It's the foundation for the courage you will need to act, to create, and to live fully. The journey continues, but you are already stronger than before. You crush your fears by facing them. Let that truth guide your steps. Now, let's confront one of the most stubborn traps your mind falls into, the illusion of control. You want certainty. You crave it. You try to manipulate outcomes, arrange every piece, and avoid fear by making everything predictable. But here's the brutal Stoic truth. You cannot control external events. You can only control your own responses. This is a hard pill to swallow because we live in a world obsessed with control. Yet, clinging to this illusion only tightens fear's grip. When you try to command what lies beyond your reach, you build anxiety and frustration. Fear thrives in this desperate attempt to control the uncontrollable. The Stoics teach a radical acceptance. Surrender your will over external things and focus fiercely on what you do control, your judgments, your choices, your actions. This shift is not surrender as weakness. It's surrender as strength. It's freedom disguised in discipline. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Let that sink in. Your real power is internal, not external. So how do you practice this? Start by clearly identifying what is within your control. Your thoughts, your decisions, your effort, your attitude. These are yours alone. Everything else, the reactions of others, the twists of fate, the outcomes, are outside your domain. When fear rises from the anxiety over uncertain outcomes, remind yourself, this is not mine to control. This simple mental pivot dissolves the power of fear. It removes the burden of trying to force reality to bend to your will. But here's the key. Accepting what you cannot control doesn't mean passivity. On the contrary, it means acting courageously within your sphere of influence. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act rightly despite it. Courage is a choice you make every day. It's the decision to move forward when fear screams to stop. It's the resolve to do what's right, not what's easy or comfortable. This is the essence of Stoic bravery. Think about this. When have you held back because you feared the unknown? When have you delayed action because you wanted certainty? How many opportunities slipped through your fingers because you refused to act without guarantees? Now imagine the freedom in accepting uncertainty as a given. Imagine the power in focusing your energy solely on your own choices, your own virtues, your own integrity. This mindset builds resilience, cultivates calmness. It builds an inner fortress that fear cannot penetrate because you no longer waste energy resisting what is beyond your control. Take practical steps. When faced with a challenge, ask yourself, what part of this situation can I control? Focus there. Put your energy into deliberate, virtuous action. Let go of the rest. Observe your reactions. When fear arises from uncertainty, remind yourself that fear is a signal, not a command. It doesn't tell you to stop. It tells you to prepare, to be courageous, to act with wisdom. This is how Stoicism turns fear on its head. Fear becomes not a barrier, but a challenge to overcome. It becomes fuel for your courage. Remember, the goal is not to live without fear but to live despite it. To face uncertainty with steady resolve. To act rightly regardless of the outcome. You crush your fears by facing them. You become unstoppable when you accept what you cannot control and act with courage within your power. Let that sink in. Your power lies in your choices. Your strength lies in your acceptance. Your freedom lies in your courage. This is the path to an unshakable inner power. The power to remain calm, fearless, and resolute no matter what storms rage outside. Let this truth guide you as you step forward. The journey is demanding, but the reward is immense. You crush your fears by facing them. Now focus on what you can control. Act with courage. Become unstoppable. Here's where the real transformation begins. You've learned to observe fear, to separate perception from reality, to accept what lies beyond your control, and to act with courage despite uncertainty. Now it's time to build true fearlessness. This is not about removing fear, that's impossible. It's about training your mind and body to stand firm in its presence, to face hardship voluntarily, and to forge unbreakable inner strength. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that voluntary challenge is the forge of inner power. By exposing yourself intentionally to discomfort, you build resilience and courage. This is the practice of embracing hardship before it hits you. A preemptive strike against fear. One of the most powerful Stoic techniques is premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. It means mentally rehearsing potential hardships, losses, and setbacks. Picture the worst that could happen, not to paralyze you but to prepare you, to reduce the shock when adversity arrives. Why is this so effective? Because fear often springs from the unknown, from the surprise of hardship. By confronting possible pain and loss in advance, you remove fear's element of surprise. You steel yourself. You turn fear from a sudden enemy into a familiar companion. Imagine waking each day with this mindset. Instead of avoiding the thought of failure, rejection, or loss, you face them deliberately. You say, I know this could come. I am ready. This mental training builds a reservoir of courage and self-trust. But it doesn't stop there. The Stoics believe that true inner power flows from living by virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Virtue is not just a lofty ideal. It's a practical source of strength that outlasts fear and adversity. When you act with integrity and purpose, fear loses its grip. Your life gains meaning beyond external circumstances. Fear becomes secondary to your commitment to what is right and just. Think about what it means to live by these virtues. Wisdom guides your judgments, helping you see clearly what truly matters. Justice grounds you in fairness and respect for others. Courage fuels your willingness to face fear and act rightly. Temperance keeps you balanced, preventing emotional extremes. Together, these virtues form a foundation so solid that fear cannot shake it. Fear is a passing shadow. Virtue is the unmovable rock beneath your feet. Now, the call to action is clear. Embody these Stoic laws daily. Don't wait for fear to force you into growth. Choose growth. Choose challenge. Choose virtue. Voluntary hardship is your training ground. Seek discomfort as a teacher, not an enemy. Push your limits. Face small fears deliberately so that when real trials come, you stand unshaken. Live with purpose. Let virtue be your compass. When fear whispers to retreat, let courage answer back louder. You crush your fears by facing them. Discomfort is the forge of inner power. You become unstoppable when you live with virtue and embrace challenge. This is your path to mastery over fear and self. This is how you unleash your true strength. This is how you inspire others, not by avoiding fear, but by conquering it with wisdom and courage. Let that sink in. The journey is yours to take. The power is yours to claim. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.